it, baby. No, we're not behind the paywall just yet. Welcome, superhero stuff you should know.
Yep.
Andrew here, and Benatavius Maximus Aurelius III.
Yes. And we have a quick announcement before we get into some of the stuff. We are officially part of the Geekscape Podcast Network. This is a new podcast network for us, run by Jonathan London and Matt Kelly. Jonathan, you can see next to Stan Lee here, harnessing the power of Geekscape over there. But yeah, we actually, Andrew and I both saw Jonathan lead a panel about 10 years ago or so, 11 years ago at LA Comic-Con, where we met Michael Uslan for the first time. And
was he was there for that? I'm
he
sorry,
was
I
he was
forgot
the
about
guy
that.
he was the guy leading the panel
Oh my God.
back then. So just in a weird coincidence around like last year when we did the episode with Uslan, I met him at an event and I brought up the fact that he had recently interviewed Michael Uslan as well, and so we both had him on our respective shows and we got to talking, and he invited me on board for the Geekscape Podcast Network. And this guy's one of us. He's a huge comic book fan. He's been podcasting for years. He's a creative like Andrew and me. He's a writer director in LA. So very happy to be part of that, and hopefully it leads to some cool collaborations in the future. So
Yes.
thank you, Geekscape.
Happy to be aboard.
Yeah. So moving on to news for this week, we continue to go into the tweets from co-head of DC Movies and now official Superman Legacy director James Gunn. It was official. It was the worst kept secret ever since Safran kind of brought it up in the
worst secret. But like, really though, why in the fuck did they not like come clean with that immediately? Was it? I really thought that they were going to get like Spielberg on the job, it's fine that they didn't, but it was just like, it's just like, I thought it was weird that they didn't say that at first. I guess he just didn't know if he had the bandwidth to take
I think
it
that's
on.
the most likely explanation, because I'm just like, if you're running this thing and you're overseeing all these different projects, like you're going to add more on top of your workload. Like you said in the that other video, like, does he ever sleep? He's already written all this other shit, to direct a major motion picture, especially like the next Superman reboot. Like, I think he just needed some time to process, like, okay, if I am going to do this, how am I going to do this? I think that's the simplest explanation outside of potentially having other directors in mind who said no.
I mean,
that could be a possibility too.
He literally said, when he said, we have this Creature Commandos show, and I've already written all 10 episodes. It's just like, God damn, man. When does he sleep?
Waller, Peacemaker season 2, and Superman Legacy.
Oh, yeah, he's writing all those too. That's true. God damn.
Yeah, so I'm like, I can't blame him for being like, I don't know if I want to direct this yet. But
I guess so. He's going to do it. All right.
So one of the things that kind of slipped under the radar that I thought would be appropriate for us to cover, because less people are talking about this, and it's Batman related, is that there were rumors reporting that Robert Pattinson is going to show up in the Penguin show on HBO Max, but not as Batman, but as Bruce Wayne or the Drifter. And a quote from Comic Book Resources saying, quote, "The TV rights for Batman are caught up in a legal limbo involving Fox, Disney, and a trio of mergers." And James Gunn was quick to reply, "This is not true."
This is the dumbest fucking rumor. The only thing Fox ever had with fucking Batman is Batman 66. And then Disney has never had anything to do with Batman ever, as far as I know. This is armchair keyboard division producers,
Yeah.
like, these guys on the internet.
ABC Studios was the studio in charge of Batman 66, but again, that's Fox and ABC. They were not bought out by Disney at the time in 1966.
Okay, yeah,
so I know. You're still right on that. I'm just clarifying for other people who are be like ABC, but like, no, ABC wasn't bought yet.
So you save save us some comments in the comment section. Yeah. So I mean, this is just like, it's like everybody's got like a hot rumor about rights and stuff these days, and it's just complete bullshit a lot of the time. And it's so great to see James Gunn so transparent all the time. And now you see kind of a revolution is what it's seeming like, because David Sandberg is like on Twitter a lot talking about being transparent about his thoughts and feelings about Shazam too, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But he's being transparent as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is what happens when people who don't know the industry are the ones reporting on the industry.
Keyboard division.
this article was written by Comic Book Resources, and look, I don't really have anything against them. However, like clearly this is like some form of fan speculation, but under the division of CBR or any sort of reporting, that shit's going to get re-reported. And so other people who you wouldn't expect to know that much about the industry who are fans are going to take that as gospel, even though it's not like Hollywood Reporter or Variety. But CBR is still a major comic book, fan site and stuff.
We've said this behind the paywall a couple times, but I don't know if we've ever actually said this on the free version of the show. But just to put it out there, if it's not Variety or Hollywood Reporter, it's not. I mean, it could be true, but like if
Mhm.
it's in those two, if it's in either of those two magazines or websites, it's fucking true, generally speaking, like
Yeah.
99% of the time. There was some problems with the Cavill story. Uh, what?
With
So
Comic Con.
didn't Variety? Was it Variety that
It
reported
was
that
Deadline.
one?
It was Deadline. Well, the Deadline said there were rumors that Cavill was going to show up, which technically is true. But if Deadline is saying he could show up, then people took that as gospel, which is what happened.
Okay, so yeah, so Deadline's kind of like third, or
Hmm.
it's like so Hollywood Reporter and Variety are like they both tie for the gold as far as entertainment movie reporting is concerned. Like if it's in there, it's gospel.
Hmm.
Deadline is kind of like the silver place, silver medalist. And a lot of these other, I don't have anything again. I like looking at rumors too, but I mean, just what am I trying to say? Main thing I'm trying to say is if it's not in Variety or Hollywood Reporter, don't really believe it until it's in Hollywood or Variety or Hollywood Reporter or Variety.
Yeah, there's that factor as well as like I think fan sites like this do have a responsibility to like report stuff that's accurate and not like speculate like this because it's one thing like this tweet is from Art of the Batman, that account like that I'm not blaming anything on that account because that account is probably somebody who's not part of the industry just regurgitating what was already said in CBR, believing CBR to be a reputable source. Like I don't blame them
Right.
for that, but that's what happens is that when you speculate like this, when you have a platform like this, people take that as gospel and they think that's what happens. And I think it's also taking advantage of the fact that like Batman on TV has been kind of in a weird situation lately anyway. You got this Gotham Knights show where he's supposed to be dead and you don't even see him in the suit. Batwoman, you don't even see him in the suit. She appropriates his costume. Titans, we get like Jorah Mormont from Game of Thrones, but we don't get to see him in costume. Like it's all this weird shit. If it's so, like I can understand people thinking like, well, there's rights issues, but it it also doesn't really make sense when you think about it. Like let's really think about this. He still appeared in costume at some point. Most of the time, it was a stuntman, but he still appeared
I
in
I
costume.
I look nothing against those shows you mentioned. I like
Hmm.
some episodes
Hmm.
here and there
Hmm.
for those, but I kind of get the feeling my gut tells me that this Penguin show is probably going to be a cut above
Oh yeah,
the
no,
other
I,
those other
I agree with
shows.
that. But I also don't
Yeah.
think that Batman's like weird non-appearances in those have anything to do with rights issues and stuff. Because like
Yeah.
if it is a thing where this because like when I first read this tweet before Gunn chimed in, I'm just like, this sounds like bullshit. This sounds like bullshit because if it was a case where it was TV rights issues due to Batman 66, then why is it specifically Bruce Wayne in a costume, in the Batman costume? Wouldn't anything that was in Batman 66 not be allowed to be done under Warner Brothers at that
Dude,
point?
you thought about it even too hard, bro. He says
Well, yeah.
Fox and Disney with a trio of merge. This is not happening. There's no
Yeah, no, no, no.
trio of mergers
Yeah, no,
happening.
no, no. I'm just
This
saying,
is
like,
this is like obviously wrong.
people were pointing at Batman 66. I'm just like, Batman 66 as Robin. Dick Grayson showed up as Robin in Titans. You think that wouldn't have been a problem? And also, the biggest thing here is just like, how the fuck are they able to do a Penguin show then? Penguin was the biggest villain in Batman 66.
Right.
So
Right,
it
right,
makes
right,
no
right.
sense. But like, that's it's again, this is someone who didn't know better reporting speculation as information, and other people who can't really be blamed for not knowing better because they don't. They're not in the industry. They're not reporters. They read it and they believed it and they regurgitated it on Twitter. And we still kind of see this type of stuff. And that's why Gunn steps in and says like, "Hey, this ain't true. This is not a thing."
Oh yeah, so that's the other thing. That's the third source. If it's Variety, Hollywood Reporter, or James Gunn
James Gunn.
himself, you can just trust all those. That's good. That's good
Yeah.
enough.
So yeah, what makes more sense to me is that the film division of WB is super protective of Batman as a film character, probably don't want him to be randomly showing up in alternate versions on TV, just like what Zaslav is already on record being like, there's not going to be 4 Batmen. Well, there sure as fuck isn't going to be, 2 of them being on TV, unless one of them happens to be Robert Pattinson in the Penguin show. Like that's
I could
why it's been happening.
I could see him showing up actually in this show. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't think he'll have a big role though. He'll probably have like a day of shooting or something.
Yeah, no,
But
it should be
yeah,
the focus should be on Penguin because it's the Penguin show, like
yeah.
that. Whatever the cameo is, I'm just saying, like this whole rights issue thing was stupid
I think what's
from the CBR standpoint.
what's good about this too is like the whole Reeves verse Batman kind of feels like it has an expiration date on it, which in a way artistically is good because they're going to be like, well, we don't have much time. Let's fucking knock everything out
Mhm.
and not waste a second.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect I think that's going to make the Reeves verse pretty interesting.
Mhm. Yeah. I think. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. 2024 is going to be the year of the Batman villains because we get Joker 2 and the Penguin HBO Max show. That's pretty much
Right.
what we get out of DC for that year.
Yeah, we don't get Superman Legacy until 2025, huh?
We're in this weird period where there's a transitionary period, and like Gunn's thing hasn't, his DCU hasn't really started yet at all. Like he's the most is maybe some notes on the final cuts of what's coming out this year, but he creatively isn't really gonna be like we're not going to see that much of it outside of like maybe Creature Commandos and Waller until Superman Legacy.
And
So
there's all that
it's gonna be a
internal.
while.
There's the internal strife at Marvel as well, where we hear in reports of the VFX like pretty much, having almost like a commit mutiny. Like they're not having a good time.
I think it's
Victoria
yeah.
Alonso is stepping down. She was the head of physical production, also post. I don't know the specifics of that, of course, but
Mhm.
it seems like Marvel's in a bit of a restructuring, and there's like a little bit of a like if DC's taking a break, Marvel might take a break too, just because they know that they need to reconfigure to help stave off superhero fatigue. And that like it's
Yeah.
just if you look at like Love and Thunder and other movies, I don't know,
Quantumania reception.
Quantumania was like kind of lukewarm too. It's just like we're there's no like end game, there's no Black Panther 1, there's no Civil War. Like
Mhm.
we need to kind of
The last big
reconfigure.
one was No Way Home, and that's technically Sony.
Yeah, we need to like just yeah. Everybody's reconfiguring. Even Marvel, even the great and mighty Marvel is
Yeah.
reconfiguring to help kind of. Well, it shows they care, which I appreciate.
Mhm. Yeah. So let's see. In other news last week, Ben Affleck was talked a lot. We got this other released image of Affleck in the suit from BVS that hadn't been released before,
Love
and
this image. I
it's
love
great.
this. I
Yeah.
think Snyder took this himself, right?
I'm not sure. I'd have to see. I think he has Clay Staub as a photographer for
No, no,
some of
no.
these too. Or is that
Clay Enos.
Clay Enos as well? Okay.
Clay Enos
Clay
is remember
Enos.
that first shot of Batman like in silhouette at the Batmobile. That was Clay Enos.
Mhm.
Check him out on Instagram and Vero. But
I think this is from
yeah,
the same shoot then.
he's Snyder's guy.
Yeah.
So Enos, man,
Mhm.
he probably I don't know how much more.
Staub
Uh,
was the second unit director. I got that mixed up. Okay.
Oh, okay. So there's two Clays.
2 Clays, yeah.
Oh shit. All right. Well, Clay
Yeah.
Enos is like still photographer on set.
Yeah. So Enos probably did this one, I would think, but,
Okay.
I think Snyder's basically, using this as a teaser for a 3-day event on the weekend of April. There was also that video of, Lord Darkseid's announcement and stuff, but essentially it's, screening Man of Steel one day, BVS Ultimate Edition another day, and the Justice League cut, on the last day somewhere in different places around Los Angeles. Proceeds go to charity, benefiting those struggling with suicide for obvious reasons. So
Uh-huh.
that sounds pretty cool and stuff. And that's not, however, the big reason why Affleck was in the news. So uh, we'll just go right to it. There was an interview asking, so like if DC came to you now and said, "Do you want to direct something?" And Affleck said, "Absolutely not. I've said that it's James Gunn." So let's talk about this because first off, this isn't really that surprising. I know people were saying, "Oh, Affleck could direct Batman: The Brave and the Bold." On this podcast, we never reported that. We never carried that on because Affleck, for years said he left the Batfleck movie because his heart wasn't in it. He wanted someone else who was more passionate about it to take the reins, which is why it went to Matt Reeves. And Reeves definitely has that passion.
It feels
He's
like
the, yeah,
Whedon just took all the wind out of Batfleck's sails, dude. It's just like
yeah,
I'm not trying to attack Whedon for no reason, but I just to you know regurgitate what he said about that experience on the Justice
mhm,
League reshoots. Man, it was
yeah,
just it was like the worst experience of his life. He said. I
yeah,
mean, my man was going through rehab. Actually, it was probably
and
more than
divorce.
just those reshoots, but
Yeah,
yeah, like it was like awful, and it just sucks because this is a guy that loves Batman. He
mhm,
finally gets a dream job of being Batman. Everybody hates him at first, and everybody loves him later. And but at the same time, it was just like he never really got what he wanted. I feel like you
mhm,
know he never
yeah,
got his Deathstroke movie. And now all this, upheaval at DC with Zaslav and everything. Anyway, continue what you were to
yeah.
say, sorry.
Well, basically that like he just wasn't, as he brought up, like his heart wasn't in it to do it
Yeah,
or do the go through with the Deathstroke movie with him. So it was tough buying the idea. I'm like, okay, why would he suddenly be down to do the Brave and the Bold? A completely different story from his version. I don't think he's like, is it because he's a huge Damian Wayne fan? Or is it just a case where somebody's making shit up, which is what it seems like, obviously, considering his response to this. And on top of that, Affleck already said in the past he was done working on like other studio-based IP stuff. He's got that Air Jordan movie coming out and stuff, and I think he's way happier with that shit than doing anything here. He's that. It seemed like his happiest time playing Batman is in 5 minutes of The Flash, according to this interview.
oh,
And
man,
I'm just like, good for him. Good for him.
got that, man,
Yeah.
God. Yeah, at least there's
And the
that,
fans get that
so
too, you know?
yeah, yeah,
But I think part of that is just like, hey, like you don't have a whole franchise on your shoulders. You basically just get a cameo. Keaton's the big Batman out of this movie. You know, there's not really any pressure on it.
right.
So I think that's probably a good amount. Um, Now, some people have brought up, well, what about Gunn saying that they were going to bring Affleck in? We've got a Gunn statement from January when the slate was revealed, saying that they're working with Affleck, who wanted to be a part of the architecture team to bring things together. And people have accused Gunn of lying and blowing up smoke to rev up hype in the slate. And here's how I'll put it: either these so-called fans are right that Gunn deliberately lied in January with a lie that Affleck can easily debunk in order to dredge up, and Gunn lies to dredge up support for movies we're not going to see in 3 or more years, or this is show business and plans change and people change their mind over the course of a couple months. This was January 31st. This interview was last week. You think maybe something changed in the last couple of months? This is exactly what we were talking about earlier about armchair producers, people who think they know the industry. And if you think everyone's word in this industry is their bond, that every just remote interest is a yes, that success is guaranteed, that things are guaranteed to be made, you don't know shit about this industry. It's the land of could have happened. Look at our show. We cover so many unmade scripts and ideas that just don't work out. Like
That's the
it's
thing. They say there's some saying like Hollywood's where is the place where movies don't get made, and
yeah, exactly.
that's the testament to, like, for every movie that's made,
Mhm.
there was, like, 100 or more that weren't made.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, the statistics aren't great on that, and yeah, like, these armchair producers, this I don't know, man. Like, this what am I trying to say here? Ben Affleck might have had some interest
Mhm.
with the new direction, but then I don't know, maybe it was Gunn's vision or the vision for the whole DC universe going forward. Maybe Batfleck isn't maybe Affleck wasn't like super into that and
Mhm.
he's trying to distance himself from that. I kind of feel like they want to make when they say Brave and the Bold, I do kind of feel like they're going to make kind of a lighter Batman.
Yeah.
And I feel like Batfleck doesn't have his heart in that. He wants to make like a hard R Deathstroke fight movie, which is cool.
Mhm.
Also, he had terrible experiences before, so
Yeah.
it's just like I'm out. Don't worry about me. You guys do your own thing. I'm sure they're on great terms. And again, everything I've said here is speculation. Of course, I'm not. I
Right.
don't fucking know. I'm a jackass on the internet, but uh, yeah. I mean, people. Yeah, these plans change, And I do not think Gunn was just saying shit to blow smoke up people's asses. I
Yeah.
think it's just they were in a volatile state.
Yeah.
You know, everything's changing all the time. It looks like they're solidifying now, but you know, I mean, Ben Affleck says, I don't want to go in that direction that they're going.
Mhm.
God, that just tells me that like they're going lighter,
Mhm.
and he doesn't want to do that, which is fine. That's just
Well,
how it
yeah,
is.
in interviews, Affleck said, like, what appealed to Snyder pitching him the character of Batman was the idea that this was burned out Batman, that this was a Batman who's lost his moral compass. Like, it was a, like, darker, like, Batman at his darkest point is why he was interested in it. Like, yeah, he blames a lot of the reshoot stuff on Justice League, but it's kind of like, well, is it a scenario where Affleck just wasn't interested in playing traditional Batman, just in general? He just wanted to kind of play the darker, edges of it, and then finally kind of came to terms of it in the 5 minutes that he's in the Flash, where he's just like, yeah, like this is where I nail it. Like I don't know, we don't know what's in the Flash movie, but it seems to me, based off of his comments, that like Snyder had specific vision of Batman that he executed in BVS, and Affleck was able to do that, and then after that, it was kind of something that he found less artistically satisfying, which makes sense from the guy who worked on, who did Argo, who did The Town, who did, Gone Girl or Gone Baby Gone. Like it just makes sense
He teams up
that
with
he
Snyder,
wouldn't go in that.
who shares his love for Frank Miller.
Mhm.
You know, so they had a similar artistic taste,
Yeah.
and again, I don't know anything, but it just my gut tells me that they're just not going to do that, and not because they hate it. It's just because it's time to do something different.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, I think most likely scenario is exactly what you said. Affleck was interested in like, oh, maybe we'll check it out. I'll meet with Gunn. And then he meets with Gunn and he's just like, like I just feel like this isn't for me. And then that's it.
And there's always especially with the position that Gunn's in now in Saffron,
Hmm.
there's always some politics. Let's not say that there's not.
Yeah.
There's got to be some level of that for sure.
Hmm.
But is he deliberately blowing smoke up their asses, complete 100% wholesale? I still don't think so. I just don't.
I don't
I
think
don't
so at all.
know.
This is
My gut again. My gut tells me that Gunn is pretty much like a straight shooter as much as he can be. I mean, look at his
even
Twitter.
I mean, even if he wasn't, like, it's still a terrible strategy. Like, why would you
Yeah,
lie about
yeah,
that? Especially
yeah,
when your
yeah,
whole
yeah.
thing is about debunking other people's stuff, especially when he's got in previous trouble with Disney for like past stuff that he used to say. He knows that any tweet he puts out is going to be reported somewhere else. So it probably came at a time where he's just like, yeah, he's going to be part of we're trying to figure out ways because they were trying to figure out ways, not because he was trying to just like garner up interest because he knows that shit could easily get debunked by Affleck if that wasn't actually true at the time. But
Right.
again, Affleck doesn't say anything and then ends up debunking it like 2 months later, which, as we know, you and I know, like anything can happen during that time.
Well,
But
especially as volatile as it is at the
yeah,
moment.
yeah, but
Yeah.
other people don't see it that way. So it's like, all right, well, you don't know this industry. You're armchair producers. This is just how it is. It's a shame that he doesn't want to be part of it, but also if he's happy making Air Jordan type of movies, then like more power to him. Get your next Oscar. Get, other stuff that's critically acclaimed. If you're not into doing more Batman stuff, make the Flash, which seems like that was when he was at his happiest in the role, be your final, swan song for it. This will be the last time we see both Affleck and presumably Keaton in the role anyway. So just go out with a bang.
I mean, you know, he was like everybody's most hated Batman, and he's gonna end up as like the most controversial, but also kind of one of the more loved ones.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's been a hell of a time for his career.
Hmm. So that's pretty much the current stuff. We will be on the Patreon covering Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and why it might not have connected with audiences and our own personal opinions about it. But yeah, this is the part that we're releasing to the public. Again, as a reminder, Andrew and I will be at WonderCon this weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Um, so come up and say hi if you're going or if you recognize our voices. And lastly, someone got confused on how our Patreon works, but these mini episodes we release are only the beginning, the preview part of our $5 tier episodes. That's why some of them have been called Patreon previews. That's also why Andrew at the end of all these says that you get the full episodes behind the paywall. I guess I have to explain this, but yeah, the snippet we shared out to the public is for the public, but the rest of the episodes are exclusive on the $5 tier Patreon. Everything there is exclusive.
I think it's because this part is also in the behind the paywall part,
Right.
but we just want to keep it all together for the Patreon.
Yeah, but this
You know
is
what I
like
mean?
25 minutes, and the episode we'll record will probably be like an hour.
Yeah, just
So,
try to pay attention to the time codes if you can, to like total runtime.
mhm.
And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yep.
But
All
thank you
right.
all. Definitely thank you to everybody that's already part of the Patreon.
Yes.
And if you want to hear more, please roll on over to patreon.com/superhero stuff pod, where you can become a $5 tier member, where you can hear episode, well, not episode, like the extension of this episode and episodes like it. Like,
Mhm.
you know, we're up to 160 something episodes now behind the paywall.
Yeah.
So,
There's
so
plenty.
there's a lot of content there. And yeah, we will head on over to behind the paywall right now.